up, fellas? Today we're checking out the most powerful Pokemon ever created. Now, I don't know if you guys know this or not, but I'm a Pokemon god. Right here, that's me. I'm a super highly competitive Pokemon player, so I will be the judge of these rankings. Let's do it. Also, shout out to Pokeville.
I've analyzed all 1,021 Pokemon and singled out the 32 most powerful of them, not by stats
I'll be the judge of that.
or their rarity, but by sheer might. I sorted them out in 4 power levels, and you'd be shocked to know that Pikachu is the last one on the list.
Okay, dude, hold on. Sus alarm. Let's be honest, though. Pikachu sucks competitively. In the anime, though, it's actually fire, so maybe this is going off of the anime. Eh? All right, let's go.
This electric-type Pokemon is so strong, it is the face of the entire franchise. And as if that isn't enough, it is capable of generating a 10 million volt Thunderbolt. Don't
Okay, look, no hate. Video cool. Respectfully. Everything I say with respect here. Just because it's the face of the franchise does not make it a good Pokemon. Let's make that clear. Eevee, trash. Not a good Pokemon. Even the Evolutions, they're like good. Some of them, like Umbreon's solid. Some of them are doo-doo. Point is, that does not give it any credit to how strong the Pokemon actually is.
be fooled by its cute, innocent appearance, though. Pikachu is stronger than many Pokemon that would logically defeat it. Just like that time he smoked 2 legendary Pokemon, Metagross and Tyranitar.
Okay.
Or that time he beat Regice to a pulp.
So it does look like we are going off of the anime itself, which, I gotta be honest, I did not watch the anime. I've watched some of the anime, some of it, not a lot of it. So this is actually a pretty cool dynamic because this video seems like it's gonna go off of the anime, but my brain only knows competitive Pokemon. So I will be able to give a lot of insight to like how realistic these Pokemon actually are in the rankings versus what the anime shows.
But unfortunately, he's not strong enough to beat a Pokemon that can literally create a cataclysmic world-ending event. That's right, I'm talking about Yveltal. In the anime,
No hate here! No hate here! Okay, not Yveltal. Don't know who Yveltal is. Also, ironically enough, Pikachu versus Yveltal is closer than you might think. Pikachu low-key might be able to do some damage to an Yveltal, just saying.
Stop it. Get some help.
there is only one Pokemon that can reverse the events of Yveltal. That technically makes Yveltal one of the strongest Pokemon on Earth, but
Me trying to not get
it's not
triggered.
the strongest. We are getting to that Pokemon. Yveltal is the embodiment of destruction,
She really gotta
meaning
stop saying
one
his name.
attack from its Oblivion Wing could theoretically kill any legendary Pokemon. But if he does that,
No, stop. Okay. Oblivion Wing is strong. It's a move that does 80 damage, 100% accuracy, and it heals 1/3 of the HP given. Or damaged. That's bonkers.
Xerneas would just quell the effect of whatever destruction he wreaks. Xerneas is the sole Pokemon capable of countering Yveltal's destructive powers.
That's true.
It can block and redirect Yveltal's abilities and even undo the damage caused by Yveltal. Just like in the movie Diancie and the Cocoon of Destruction, the mere presence of Xerneas was able to quell Yveltal's rage, and it used its power to revitalize the All-Earth Forest and revive the Pokemon and people that Yveltal turned to stone. And
Okay, what kind of name of a movie is Diancie and the Cocoon of Destruction? Who named that? And then who watched it? Who watched that? Who watched Diancie and the Cocoon of Destruction movie? Raise your hand. Not me. I didn't. I mean, they should have named it Xerneas and the... They should have named it Xerneas. I would have watched that.
Right, yeah, of course.
after that, he went to sleep for a millennia. So, what about a Pokemon that...
Half of that is kind of true, though, where, like, Xerneas counters Yveltal flawlessly, like, in actual competitive Pokemon. So, true. Some of that.
can generate an infinite amount of energy without having to sleep for 1,000 years. I'm talking about Lil Victini, this small rabbit-like Pokemon. Not only can it generate infinite
rabbit?
energy, it can also share it to anyone just by touching them. And
Hey, yeah, oh, wait a minute. What did it just do to that pig? Hold on. I don't know if it was sharing energy or sticking things in places that it shouldn't be. I'm just saying, I don't know. It was very sus camera work there.
addition, it has the unique ability to turn invisible and cause people to have visions. To top it all, Victini stands out as the sole Pokemon capable of mastering the move Searing Shot. But
Searing Shot, that might be true.
Zekrom is the only Pokemon capable of learning Bolt Strike. This
True.
Pokemon reeks of black air force energy, and it has the ability to generate
that even
multiple
mean?
thunderstorms in a single location, and even use its lightning to destroy kingdoms. There's even a belief that Zekrom has the power to bring about global destruction. Yeah, I wouldn't want to mess with it.
Okay, so it seems like she's also going off of their Pokédex entries, not just what happens in the anime. Which is interesting because now we're going to start to get into, well, down the line, some Pokemon that really shouldn't be at the top of like the strongest Pokemon ever, but might be. For example, Gyarados has a very, very, very strong Pokédex entry. I'm pretty sure it's able to like destroy entire cities, entire maybe continents, I don't know. Tyranitar as well. I'm pretty sure one of its dex entries is it can lift up like entire mountains and move them. My point is, that is seemingly another variable that is being considered when ranking these Pokemon, not just the anime.
Neither would I mess with this Pokemon that can cause a
You can't make it
devastating
up!
earthquake with just one hand. I'm talking about the big and mighty Tyranitar.
Can't make
It is
it
a
up.
very rebellious Pokemon that evolved from Larvitar and has immense strength and a tough rocky skin that makes it highly resistant to various types of attacks. When Tyranitar evolves into Mega Tyranitar, it can cause 1,000 times more havoc, and not even its trainer would be able to stop it. But
1,000 times more havoc is pretty crazy. I do wonder where she got that. Its biggest issue though is that it is dark and rock type, making it have tons of weaknesses. Specifically, fighting type is 4 times effective against it. So its stats are incredible. It's got a pretty decent ability. It's got a good moveset. The problem is just that its typing is not that great. That's its only weak point.
wreaking havoc is not the only quality that makes a Pokemon powerful. Some just have the mythical power to resurrect the dead and even grant eternal happiness. This
Any Pokemon that has Revival Blessing can revive other Pokemon. One of them is Rapska. Those are actual things. Like, you actually can revive Pokemon now in the middle of Pokemon battles, but I don't think that that is what she is referencing.
This legendary Pokemon
Hello.
might as well be Santa Claus with his ho-ho-ho name. That's right, I am talking about Ho-Oh. To show you how uniquely strong it is, only a trainer with a pure heart can own it. So
It also is said that if you ever do see a Ho-Oh, you're gonna be like blessed with eternal luck or eternal life. Something like that. Not only does it revive things, it is said that Ho-Oh revived the legendary beasts, the legendary dogs, Suicune, Raikou, and Entei. That is how that trio exists at all, is because of Ho-Oh.
sadly, I can't say the same for the mischievous Gengar, which is the final evolution of Ghastly and Haunter. Standing at 4 feet 11 inches and weighing 90 pounds, Gengar uses its size to both frighten and play pranks on people. With
Wait, 4'11" is not even that big though? I was actually about to say that that makes it a legal midget. I'm pretty sure that if you're under 5 feet tall, you're legally classified as... I think it's properly called a little person these days. I don't know. When I was growing up, midget was the word, and then it was dwarf. Now I think it's little person. My point is, it's not even that big!
the ability to fly, create illusions, and even take control of someone's mind, Gengar is not to be trifled with. So
Ironically, even though it can control people's minds, it is not a psychic type. It is ghost and poison.
far, all the Pokemon I have mentioned are babies compared to what's to come. Soon, you will get to see Pokemon that are capable of eating Saitama for
I do want to make a guess as to what I think is going to be the strongest Pokemon. Probably Rayquaza, to be honest. Actually, no, I take that back. It's probably Arceus. I think Arceus makes sense.
breakfast. For now, let's move up the scale to the OG Pokemon. And you can't spell Kyogre without OG. Kyogre is basically the
She kinda
Pokemon
spittin'.
version of Poseidon. It is one of the most powerful water-type Pokemon that can put an end to droughts, and despite being a water Pokemon, it even has the ability to fly. When it wields the blue orb, it transforms into Primal Kyogre, doubling in size and becoming significantly more powerful. The crazy thing about Kyogre is that it is always tranquil and serene, but it goes into beast mode when it encounters its rival, Groudon, who rules over the land.
I'm not gonna lie, I did not know that Kyogre could fly. You can't learn any flying moves. It has no reason to be able to fly, but since it can fly, that kind of makes it like 10 times cooler than Lugia, because Lugia also lives in the bottom of the ocean and it can fly. That's what makes it cool. But if Kyogre can also fly, then it's just a cooler Lugia, honestly.
Groudon is capable
No
of
way.
making continents expand, and it can also cause volcanic eruptions. It has a brilliant ability known as Drought that summons harsh sunlight, powering up fire-type moves and weakening water types.
Interesting that she's bringing up like an actual competitive aspect to Groudon. Like she's bringing up its ability Drought, which might be the first time, maybe she said other things before, but that's the first time I can remember that she's bringing up like an actual competitive aspect of the Pokemon. Not just things that happen in anime or its dex description. I'm wondering why she's doing it for Groudon, but not for every other Pokemon.
Throw in the ability of Primal Reversion, and Groudon would be an absolute beast on the battlefield. While Groudon can create new land with each step it takes, Kyurem can cover an entire region where it resides in ice, potentially freezing it. Kyurem is considered the strongest Dragon-type Pokemon in the world.
I don't think that's true. It's definitely not competitively. What it is, though, is it is considered like the original dragon Pokemon. But it got split off into other Pokemon, being Zekrom and Reshiram, which is why you can fuse them together. You can create a Kyurem Black if you fuse it with the Zekrom, and you can create a Kyurem White if you fuse it with Reshiram. But when all three fuse together, the Pokemon doesn't even exist, but that is like the original Kyurem, the original dragon Pokemon. So maybe that's what she's referring to, but I'm not, maybe in the anime it's the strongest dragon, but definitely not even close competitively.
Having been born at the same time as Reshiram and Zekrom, it can harness the powers of both Reshiram and Zekrom at will, allowing it to transform into white Kyurem and black Kyurem.
See, that's what I said.
Power is kind of similar to that of
No!
Articuno, who has mastery over ice manipulation at all times. It even possesses psychic powers, capable of freezing its enemies just by merely looking at them. By just the flap of its wings, Articuno can create a snowfall that will chill the surrounding air's moisture.
Okay, this is pretty hilarious because Articuno is relatively recognized as one of the weakest legendaries in the entire game. It has a lot of weaknesses. Its typing just isn't that great. It doesn't, go well. It's not incredibly offensive. It's not incredibly fast. It doesn't get great utility. There's no real reason to use Articuno over any other legendary. But it is one of the more iconic legendary Pokemon because it is one of the Generation 1 legendaries. And obviously Generation 1 is the most iconic generation. So I wouldn't be surprised if we start to see a lot of the Generation 1 legendaries later on in the video just because of their notoriety and how popular they are. That's probably why we saw Pikachu at number 32. It's all starting to click in my head now.
Anyways, enough with Articuno. I hate cold weather. Pokemon are uniquely powerful.
Why you got nipples though? This is like the second or third time that we've seen this Pikachu. Why it got nipples? I don't hate it. Do I love it? Maybe. I'm just putting it out there. Nipple Pikachu. Nipple chew.
Already. So having one that can transform into any Pokemon it wishes is just crazy. Do not be fooled by the appearance of this jello-looking Pokemon because it can transform into any shape or Pokemon it desires. Ditto is the smallest Pokemon on this list, but that doesn't change the fact that this Pokemon is OG. So if Ditto transforms into Kyurem or Pikachu, it would just be as strong.
So interestingly enough, Ditto actually is a pretty viable competitive Pokemon if you put a choice scarf on it. The way that Ditto works is when you send it out into battle, it turns into the opposing Pokemon and it copies all of its stat changes. So for example, if you throw a Ditto out against a Zacian and the Zacian had already Swords Danced, that Zacian is going to be at 2.5 times attack. And your Ditto is not only going to transform into a Zacian, but it's going to transform into a 2.5x attack Zacian. And when you put a choice scarf on the Ditto, it is now going to be faster than that other Pokemon. So you're able to eliminate that Pokemon more times than not. And then sometimes you can sweep the entire opposing team with your Ditto. So honestly, Ditto is a very fun, it's a gimmick, but it is a strong Pokemon to use competitively.
But I highly doubt it would be able to replicate the ability of Celebi, because Celebi is able to travel through time and exist simultaneously throughout time. And Celebi can't just time travel randomly. No, it can control its ability. While random time travel is intriguing, the ability to choose both the date and location you want to visit makes it incredibly powerful beyond imagination.
I do find it interesting that Celebi can control time because Palkia also controls time. So like, what if they both control time at the same time?
I wish I had this power. First thing I'd do with it is time travel to the moment you almost subscribe to my channel and make
subscribe.
You do it.
Everyone subscribe. I'm pretty sure they're almost at 100K. Look at this. Pokeville is at 88K. Get them to 100K. Let's go. Let's do it. And while they're at it, subscribe to my channel too, because we're almost at a million, jillion.
fact, why don't you do that right now so I don't steal Celebi's powers and use them on you? And after stealing Celebi's powers, I would beg Deoxys, who is one of the most intelligent Pokemon in existence, to give me his psychokinetic powers. I mean, can you imagine going toe-to-toe with Deoxys? It has the unique capability to transform its body into various forms to adapt to different battle situations. Not only is it exceptionally intelligent and wields potent psychokinetic powers, but Deoxys also has the ability to shoot laser beams. As if that isn't enough strength, it can quickly regenerate any injured body part and even produce duplicates of itself.
So Deoxys is actually a pretty interesting Pokemon to use because it has multiple forms. There's Deoxys normal? I guess there's Deoxys normal. There's Deoxys attack, there's Deoxys speed, there's Deoxys defense. I believe the only ones that are actually viable are probably defense and attack. Defense is scary because if you let it set up with cosmic powers, but one problem with Deoxys is that there's a ton of other psychic legendary Pokemon. I'm pretty sure psychic is one of the highest number of legendary typings that there is, alongside dragon. My point is that the psychic type is very competitive in the legendary space, so although Deoxys is relatively strong, there are other Pokemon that are also psychic type that are even stronger.
That just makes it almost stronger than the Freddy Krueger of Pokemon, Darkrai. It can just straight up unalive someone by making them sleep, never wake up, and have terrifying nightmares until they either die or get saved by Cresselia. And its power to unleash nightmares is not even its special move, but a defense mechanism. This dark-type mythical Pokemon is so creepy, but I can't lie, he is powerful.
Yeah, Darkrai is a interesting Pokemon as well. It does get Dark Void. It's known to put Pokemon to sleep. That Pokemon takes damage as if it's like poisoned while it's asleep. And it's incredibly fast. It hits pretty hard. Not my favorite Pokemon to use. Like, I think that it's a little bit too frail. It dies way too quickly, but overall, it's a pretty solid Pokemon.
But not as powerful as mighty Zygarde, also known as the Order Pokemon. It is...
I think Zygarde is only viable if it is in its 50% form or if it has Power Construct, which when it is under 50% HP or 33% HP, it then transforms into its complete form, which looks like Megatron. In that form, it is one of the most overpowered Pokemon in the entire game. So if she includes its full 100% form, I think it should be way higher up on the list, to be honest.
The last member of the Aura Trio. Zygarde stands just over 16 feet tall and weighs 672 pounds.
See, that was the complete form Zygarde. That was not the Zygarde that you just showed.
Making it the heaviest in the trio. Damn, Zygarde almost weighs the...
See that on the left? That on the left is the complete form Zygarde.
Same as Snorlax. It even has the ability...
That is... Sorry to keep pausing, but that is 10% Zygarde, and that one is pretty bad, to be honest.
...to transform into 3 different forms and 2 components. When it assumes its complete form, Zygarde becomes the most powerful among the Aura Trio.
That is true, I believe.
Unfortunately, it still won't be as strong as Gardevoir, because he possesses psychic abilities which allow him to glimpse into the future. He can also use telekinesis to lift objects and remain unaffected by gravity. Furthermore, it can generate miniature black holes and warp entire dimensions. If you are Gardevoir's trainer, then you'd be very lucky, because as strong as he is, he would use all his might to protect you.
Okay, so I actually did hear about the black hole usage that Gardevoir gets. I believe it was in some Pokédex entries of it, which is how we know about it, and also it's in the anime, I guess. Unfortunately, there is no Pokemon move that is Black Hole, so in actual competitive Pokemon, Gardevoir does not get that ability. However, Gardevoir still is very strong. It's a really good typing with Fairy and Psychic, and it can also Mega Evolve. That was not mentioned, which I think is probably pretty important because Mega Gardevoir is very, very strong, and its stats as a Mega Gardevoir are higher than a lot of legendary Pokemon.
I wish I had Gardevoir,
Hey,
but if I were to choose between him and Eternatus, you'd best believe I'm making the right choice.
Okay, but if we're deciding who we're marrying, no.
I mean, who wouldn't want to have the tallest Pokemon to ever exist on their side?
Well, I don't know if this is considering Eternamax. Eternamax is even taller and bigger and stronger.
Right? Eternatus is notable for featuring both poison and dragon attributes, and is an extraterrestrial Pokemon that came to Earth inside a meteor around 20,000 years ago.
I do want to know the lore behind that. Like, that must mean that there's another planet out there with Pokemon on it that is like somehow sending more Pokemon this way. Like, there are other Pokemon that exist in the universe. Like Deoxys was that same thing where it came on a meteor and crashed into Earth, and now we have Deoxys. But that must mean that there's hundreds, thousands, millions, billions of other Pokemon out there that we don't even know about.
Eternatus absorbs a substantial amount of energy in a single go. It transforms into Eternamax. In this form, it can unleash devastating storms that have the power to rip open rifts in various dimensions.
That is right. And also, Eternamax has the highest base stat of any Pokemon ever, and it's not even close. Like, if you think that Arceus has high base stats, no, Eternamax is way, way stronger. The only reason that it even exists, though, is because you can't attain it. You cannot get Eternamax in Pokemon. I believe that you can only battle it, but there's no way to actually attain it and use it on your own team.
That's so badass if you ask me, but not as badass as Zacian. She is one of the strongest fairy Pokemon ever.
Just want to put this here. Just want to put this here, okay? Genderless. Genderless. A lot of legendaries do not have a gender, which is why I'm like, you know what I'm saying? Hey, no hate, no hate. Respectful comments only.
She possesses incredible cutting abilities, capable of slicing through anything with just one strike. She can even cut through the ocean. I guess Zacian is the messiah of Pokemon. If you thought these OG Pokemon are the strongest, prepare to be shocked because we are moving up the ladder to the invincible Pokemon.
I told you Gyarados would be way up here, which is pretty insane, given that we've gone through some of the most overpowered Pokemon ever. We've even seen some Uber Pokemon, like Zacian is an Uber tier Pokemon. Many of the Pokemon that we've already seen are Ubers. And now we're getting into Gyarados, which I'm not even sure how used Gyarados is anymore.
And first up there is Gyarados, the literal god of destruction. With its ability to crush rocks using its formidable fangs, Gyarados combines strength with intense ferocity, and it can maintain its wrath for up to a month. Okay, Hulk, I see you. Remarkably, Gyarados can thrive in both fresh and saltwater environments, and it possesses the remarkable ability to leap from either land or sea, soaring over 50 feet into the air.
I do find it pretty hilarious that we've just gotten to the next tier, and one of her points was that it can survive in fresh or salt water. Whoa! Whoa! Go ahead, Gyarados, pop off, king! I'm just playing.
But in a way, Dragonite is like Gyarados because it can also go on an uncontrollable destructive rampage, but only if its environment is threatened. This colossal flying dragon Pokemon possesses the extraordinary ability to break the sound barrier during flight. Despite its size of over 7 feet and a weight of 460 pounds, Dragonite even exhibits a human-like level of intelligence.
This is the second Pokemon in a row where she brings up ability, but then doesn't actually talk about the Pokemon's actual ability, which is fine. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but I am going to, because Dragonite is a very strong Pokemon, but it's only extremely viable when it does have its hidden ability called Multi-Scale. What that does is when Dragonite is at 100% HP, it takes half damage.
And it is nothing compared to Dialga's ability to control and travel through time.
I did think Dialga would be in the top 5 because of its ability to control time, but it's only ranked 10, which is surprising. And also, now that Dialga's out, I'm going to put Mewtwo in. I feel like Mewtwo is probably going to be in there.
Is a massive armored dinosaur with the remarkable ability to manipulate time using the diamond on its chest. It can either speed it up, slow it down, reverse it, or halt it completely. I am feeling dizzy now. It also has the power to destroy and create time itself, as well as the ability to devolve anything or anyone against their will. There's also a legend that says time started moving when Dialga was born and will continue flowing as long as Dialga's heart beats.
So it's my understanding Dialga and Palkia are the children, like the direct descendants of Arceus. It goes Arceus, then Dialga, Palkia, and then it branches off from there as far as the family tree.
And together with Palkia, they have the ability to create a new universe. What makes Palkia invincible is the fact that it has the power over space. It can warp space, travel to faraway places or other dimensions, create alternate realities, and even destroy space itself.
I do find it interesting that in that transition, they used an origin Dialga and only a regular Palkia, but that does make me think that they know what origin forms are. But then they didn't bring up the origin form of Palkia and Dialga. which are even stronger than their base forms.
In contrast to Dialga...
See, there it is right there. That's Origin Dialga on the left, which is stronger than regular basic Dialga.
And Palkia, Giratina embodies antimatter and possesses the ability to freely move between dimensions. This Pokemon is so out of pocket, it is the devil of all the Pokemon. Just as the biblical devil is viewed as a divine entity who was cast out of heaven because of his aggressive tendencies, Giratina is also considered a literal deity that was expelled for its unwavering pursuit of balance. But...
Nah, Giratina's strong. Giratina's a fun legendary to use because it's not like overly offensive. It's a very well-rounded Pokemon. It can deal damage, but it's also very good for utility. It gets Will-O-Wisp, so it's able to burn enemies. And it's just very tanky. It's a really good like change of pace Pokemon when a lot of other legendaries are really big in speed and attack, but then neglect a lot of defense.
Do you know who else has destructive tendencies? Lugia. It's referred to as the guardian of the seas because it can control the ocean's turbulence, calming or stirring the waters at will. And not only can this entity cause storms, it possesses remarkable intelligence and also has the power to manipulate the weather. Even a very gentle flutter of its wings has the potential to generate winds so fierce they can demolish the Pentagon. If a gentle flutter of its wings can cause that, imagine if it were to vigorously flap its wings. It could literally trigger storms that could last for up to 40 days.
I do find it pretty humoring that they say that Lugia can be one of the most destructive Pokemon in the game, because when competitive Pokemon players use Lugia, they use it as a defensive Pokemon, not as an offensive threat. And similar to Dragonite, it gets the ability Multi-Scale. So it is one of the most tanky Pokemon in the game. It's a great change of pace Pokemon to slow things down, which is kind of the opposite of what it does in the anime, I guess.
Listen, there is a Pokemon that can open and travel through the Ultra Wormhole, and that Pokemon is Ultra Necrozma, who symbolizes void. It can literally devour any kind of energy. The purer the energy, the easier for him to absorb. Believe it or not, he can even absorb the strongest Pokemon on this list. Ultra Necrozma in the hands of a capable trainer can create havoc in all the multiverses.
Okay, I'm gonna be honest, this is one of the Pokemon that I'm not too familiar with. I've never really used Ultra Necrozma, because I don't even know how to get him. I don't know how to get an Ultra Necrozma. I've never even seen it like been used on Pokemon Showdown or anything like that. I literally don't really know much about it other than it's insanely overpowered.
Anyways, things are about to get very intense.
All right, now we're going in the top 5.
We are moving on to the God tier Pokemon.
Okay, Rayquaza has to be in there. Mewtwo has to be in there. Arceus has to be in there. That's 3. We haven't seen them yet. I feel like Mew is gonna be in there too, because we haven't seen Mew yet. I know it's not actually that powerful, but with the power of love and friendship and anime, it might actually get up there. So I guess I'll go Mew in the 4 slot, and then number 5 is probably so obvious and I'm just missing it. They do have Hoopa here. You know, I'll just go Hoopa. I'm gonna say Hoopa Unbound in the 5 slot, only because it's right there though.
And the least of them is
there it is.
Hoopa.
Boom.
Its body is a
did I cheat? I probably cheated, but whatever, dude. If you ain't cheating, you ain't trying.
Adorned with rings that possesses the extraordinary ability to manipulate time and space, enabling it to transport objects by passing them through these rings. Hoopa has a very mischievous nature that drives it and makes it unhesitant in using its powers to cause trouble and obtain whatever it wants. The ability which makes him so powerful is that he can send any Pokemon through time.
Okay, I didn't know that it could travel through time and space. How many Pokemon can? Because that's like 3 or 4 on the list now that have the ability to control time and space. I used to think was like super rare and cool and epic, but now I'm like, okay, well now there's multiple Pokemon that can do it, so is it really even that cool anymore?
Even one that has lived for hundreds of millions of years.
There it is, Rayquaza, wow.
The big ol' Rayquaza, standing at 23 feet tall and weighing 455 pounds, this dragon-type Pokemon possesses the capability of flight and wields one of the most formidable attacks in the Pokemon world, Dragon Ascent.
See, it's very strange to me that sometimes they include actual Pokemon dynamics, like battle features. Like, we're going over Dragon Ascent now, spelled wrong by the way on screen. It's with a T at the end. But then in most of the other cases, they completely neglect any moves that the other Pokemon get, or their typing, or their ability, or their stats.
When it uses this move, it gets covered in a green aura and dives into its opponent with a light speed. Because of this move, it holds leadership over Groudon and Kyogre in the Hoenn region.
They got really close to mentioning this because of the visuals on screen, but they failed to really say it, which is that in order to Mega Evolve a Rayquaza, it doesn't need a Mega Stone. Instead, it just needs to know the move Dragon Ascent. As long as it knows that move, it can Mega Evolve, which is very overpowered because then you can put any item on your Rayquaza. You can give it a Life Orb, you can give it a Choice. But every other Mega Pokemon, they must have their Mega Stone on in order to Mega Evolve, which means that you can't put any other item on them.
Likewise, Mew is the only known Pokemon capable of using the Z move Genesis Supernova. And despite being the final Pokemon of the first generation, it possesses the genetic code of all of the original Pokemon. Even though Mew is pretty tiny, this cute little creature has a surprising array of abilities, including the capacity to use any attack. Mew also has the remarkable ability to turn invisible at will, and the only way you would see it is if you are pure of heart. However, Mew alone may not prevail against the top 2 Pokemon on this list, Mewtwo and this guy.
Okay, so Mew is a pretty interesting Pokemon in that all of its stats are the same. Every single base stat is 100, giving it a base stat total of 600. The problem with that, though, is most Pokemon have stats built in a specific way.
Mewtwo is undoubtedly a god to Pokemon, even though it is a scientific experiment created from the DNA of a pregnant Mew that underwent genetic alterations.
What?
It possesses the extraordinary abilities of mind control and teleportation, making it an imposing force. In the recent Detective Pikachu film, Mewtwo's incredible powers are vividly showcased, emphasizing its overwhelming strength. Realistically, it is a formidable Pokemon with no real rival in terms of power.
So Mewtwo actually is a very strong Pokemon competitively. Its biggest issue, in my opinion, is its ability is terrible. It's pressure. And also, I don't think it has a great move pool. Like, you can't teach it many amazing moves. But what really carries it to actually be a good Pokemon is its stats. Opposite to Mew, it actually does have a very good dispersion of its stats. I'm pretty sure its special attack stat is all the way up at 154, which is 54% higher than Mew's, which makes a very big difference.
Unless you pit him against Arceus, who is literally the god of all Pokemon. That's right, when Arceus hatched from its egg, it brought into existence time, space, and antimatter. I mean, we are talking about a Pokemon who creates worlds and has 16 plates that give it the abilities of every type of Pokemon. Arceus communicates through telepathy and has the remarkable capability to exert control over other legendary Pokemon. Whether as an opponent or an ally, Arceus stands unparalleled in power. No one, not even Mewtwo, can defeat Arceus in its full form.
So Arceus actually is a very strong competitive Pokemon as well. What is unique about Arceus, though, is like they mentioned, I think, you can make it any single type that you want. All you have to do is put an Arceus plate on it. Although I think there's 17 plates, not 16. They said 16. I think it's 17. But yeah, there you have it. There are the top 32 strongest Pokemon in the entire world. Let me know what you guys think about this list. Make sure to check out Pokeville and click right here to watch another awesome video.